This is from David Poland's The Hot Button. It's a column on a Substack. David Poland is a analyst, commentator, film critic, uh, who is, I'm going to let you know, he is a very loyal lefty, very anti-Trump. I would not say he's necessarily TDS. He's a pragmatist. Can you bring up the story, Alan?
Yeah.
Here we go. This is from his Substack, which I recommend people subscribe to. You can Google David Poland, the hot button, or link will be in the description. What this is, a series of stories, and we'll follow this. He is calling out that the industry is well beyond the point where minor changes will fix things. Almost every Hollywood institution is in trouble. If you would read from the top, Alan.
Sure. This is one of those pieces that I really don't want to be writing, but I can't seem to escape it. Awards events are in trouble. Independent film is in trouble. Festivals are in trouble. And like the legacy media companies faced with flipping their linear television business strategy to streaming, these organizations seem unwilling to make the very much needed transition to whatever might be next. Fearful of losing what they already have, even if what they have is showing clear signs of serious and unrelenting shrinkage. Ironically, what troubles a lot of the areas that are having all kinds of troubles are also directly connected to progress, is how the world engages with filmed entertainment. Awards. The Oscars are not the only award show crapping the bed in terms of viewerships. The Emmys have not seen 10 million viewers since 2017. The Grammys is number 2 to the Oscars. It hasn't seen 20 million viewers since 2017. The Golden Globes, whether a scummy nonprofit or scummy for-profit, also last saw 20 million in 2017. The Oscars saw 20 million in 2020, 30 million in 2019, and 40 million in 2014. The media keeps obsessing on the trees of the season, but it is wrong in almost every way. That said, in spite of being led by some of the smartest, most clever film industry professionals alive today, the Academy also loses perspective, trying the same things over and over and expecting different results. Insanity, but more important, failure. In the 8 years since 2017, the last sign of robust health for the award shows, cable subscriptions in America had gone from 96.3 million to 68.7 million. That's a 30% drop, steep. But the viewership for Oscars, for instance, has dropped 40%, even using what I believe to be inflated figures for Sunday night's show. Grammys off by 41%. Emmys, based on the last oddly timed show, are off by more than half. So trying to blame cord cutting is often one factor, but not a significant enough one to be the primary narrative. I hate a lot of suggestions that wannabe know-it-alls offer on how to fix the Oscars. But this is what we know. They put on a very similar show every year, more than 7 weeks after the end of the year in film, that they are allegedly celebrating, following 3 other televised and minimally watched outside of the industry award shows, movie award shows. And they focus on comedic hosts, musical performances, and rarely the movie that are nominated unless it's one of the highest grossers, because they imagine that this will somehow boost the ratings. The same formula over and over again, and while we try to figure out what the hell went wrong in the last 5 years, the same results at the 5-year mark, and really at the 10-year mark, and then the 15-year mark. We live in a 24/7, 365 world now. For better or for worse, it isn't going away. But I have to say, the Academy Board of Governors, they are much more likely to be praying that Netflix or Apple will come along and pay them to keep doing the Oscar show exactly as they have done it for decades. Less concerned about ratings and earning back the money than owing the number one non-sport television show event of each year. Don't innovate, replicate. I actually believe strongly that the aloof nature of Oscar is the important part of the brand. So I'm not looking to turn it into a game show or something wildly different. The difference I would suggest are how Oscars is presented to the public. Change requires change.
You can leave it there. Um, he basically is going through, people don't like award shows now. Less and less people like it. I would say this, certain other things have died. The traditional 3-camera sitcom filmed in front of a studio audience with a laugh track, that's like an old format.
Mhm.
Since The Office changed that. It changed the way, now there'll always be comedy, but different forms of comedy. It evolves and changes. There's not, while there is still slapstick as a comic form, a comedic form, people are not making Three Stooges things today, right? And Oscar is not keeping up with the times. Film festivals, Alan and I have discussed, they are way out of touch. And independent film on a mainstream level, I would say this, the effort to make indie film and foreign films mainstream, it never was. It's always a sliver of a market. Like, indie film is the jazz of movies, right? Jazz, people like jazz music, especially experimental. It's a section in the record store. It will always be there, but it will never be mainstream. It will never be huge. That is indie film and foreign. I love indie film. It's an acquired taste. So while I love a good Marvel superhero series if it's done well. I love a good tentpole spectacle Hollywood movie when it's done well. And I also love indie film and a foreign film, but those are like, they're not for everyone. They're not mainstream. So I think the public's taste is changing. Obviously, it's changed when it comes to news, and award shows, festivals, indie film are going to have to kind of realize where they are. Also, here's the problem too. Last thought. We'll go to your comments. These things are niches, like I compared to jazz, right? It's a niche of a thing. It's okay to be small and profitable. But the problem is when you're constantly pushing a type of movie and then people say, I'll check out an indie film, and it ends up being some horrifying thing. They're like, I don't think I'll try indie film again, right? Like, even whether it's trying a kind of food that isn't regularly eaten, right? You're like, I'll try this thing. You have a bad experience, you don't revisit it. And that's why it's diminished. Anything you'd like to say? I want to go to comments.
Yeah, there's an interesting observation, and it came right here. The Emmys hadn't seen 10 million since 2017.
Yeah.
Oscars hadn't seen 20 million since 2017. It's funny that he's focusing on 2017 because what happened at the end of 2016?
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is the fact that, so for some reason, something happened in 2016 that broke the brains of Hollywood.
Right.
And that everyone started just pushing this narrative of, of course, everyone hates the Orange Man. And so they leaned into it. And we soon found out that not everybody hated the Orange Man. And not everyone was disgusted by what the Orange Man was. And that all the witch hunting, all the Me Tooing, just really turned people off. And what happened was it turned off your prime audience. And then when you tried to cater to the younger audience, thinking that they were into this whole DEI stuff, you found out that young people don't care about it either. And that we are losing young people. Because I can tell you when I, during the last few years, why didn't you see the Marvels? Why didn't you see this? Why didn't you see that? 100% of the response was the response I got was because it looked lame. And kids and youth know well, obviously they know what's good because you watch something. If it's good, it's good. And they're not seeing that. And as much as, I'm still going to keep saying it. Hollywood did it to themselves. And this position that they're in is because they decided for some reason in 2017 to radically change the way they tell stories, radically change the people who tell stories, and I'll just add to the fact that they got rid of all the people who knew how to tell good stories, animate good movies, and we were left with junk. And again, you have to come to the conclusion that Hollywood did it to itself.
Yes, all of these wounds are self-inflicted from Hollywood. Self-inflicted wounds, completely avoidable only if they had self-awareness and could wake up.